Guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube. A lot of people have been asking my thoughts on this, on some of these things that are coming out of this nomination for both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So I wanted to do a short video here because I watched the primaries as well, and it's interesting because a lot of the symbolism I talk about here on the channel showed up in both these primaries as well. But first and foremost, I am now, and have been for a really long time, completely sold out to the idea that this entire world is a stage. Don't fully trust anybody or any other stories out there. Do the research for yourself in all things. Then use your logic, your reason, your critical thinking skills, your spiritual discernment to figure out what you believe is the truth. I couldn't help but just shake my head watching some of these primaries and watching the people. It's amazing to me that people still buy into this false left-right paradigm. This is why in the mainstream, when it comes to politics, they're always pushing the most emotional subjects. Gay marriage, abortion rights, gun rights. And obviously both parts of this false paradigm choose opposing points of view on these very emotional issues. It's literally a pyramid of control. You have the people on the right blaming everything on the people on the left. You have the people on the left blaming everything bad on the people on the right. As you can see right here, it literally creates a pyramid structure. So while the masses are down here fighting over all these emotional issues, the people at the top of the pyramid, the capstone, the Illuminati, the shadow controllers, the people at the top are actually running things and making big moves in the world. So if you're familiar with my channel, you've heard me talk a lot about the fifth age, the age of Aquarius, the last age of man, the Antichrist age. This will be the time where the New World Order is fully implemented. But to get there, we have to be out of the church age, or the fourth age. Biblical history, to me, can roughly be divided into two periods following the division of the Old and the New Testaments, the age of the law and the church age. There are a lot of different interpretations of all this. Some people believe the church age is the period of time from Pentecost in the Bible to the so-called rapture, or the catching away. This is also considered the age of grace. The church age comprises the entire dispensation of grace. The law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. That was in John in the Bible. So for the first time in history, God actually indwells His creatures permanently and eternally. In other dispensations, the Holy Spirit was always present and always at work, but He would come upon people temporarily. So the church age is marked by the Holy Spirit's permanent indwelling of His people. And all of this is tied into something that I say all the time, and that is that the veil is lifting. We really are living in that time. Because as we leave this church age, before we get to the so-called fifth age, the last age of man, all of these old constructs are falling away. Everything's being revealed. And the old ways of politics are falling away, the old ways of religion are falling away. Everything's being revealed, everything's being shown. And the Republican and Democratic primaries, these nominations, was a very, very clear example of that. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So as I do this, keep in mind, I am not a fan of either party necessarily. I mean, there's aspects of both parties I'm a fan of, but that's it as far as things they stand for. But at this point, we all realize they don't even really stand for most of these things anyway. They just want power. But this right here was a huge, huge story, and a very clear example of what I'm trying to show you here. A lot of you probably saw this, but Newt Gingrich came out at one point and said that the establishment Republicans were scared of Donald Trump because he didn't belong to any of the secret societies. Everything's being revealed, right? That's the first time we've ever seen one of these establishment people come out there and actually mention secret societies that they're all a part of. Now for years, some of us have already known this stuff, right? But it's not all of us. I mean, the mainstream is still locked into this idea of the false left-right paradigm. And I imagine that even when this story came out, it still didn't fully sink in for the masses, for the most part. But it should have, because once again, this goes to show you that both sides, okay, are controlled. But this showed you clearly that the right is fully controlled by the secret societies. Why do we not trust that? Because they lie to us. People involved in secret societies tell the truth to each other in the shadows. For the rest of us, we're left in the dark. So now, considering this, with the secret societies being exposed, right, that are in charge of the Republican Party, no doubt both parties, right, the whole system, but in this case the Republicans. So back in 2000 they changed their logo and they took the stars that were once right side up and they flipped them upside down to the goat, or the Baphomet. So they went from man, the star right side up, flipping upside down to the inverse, to be the Baphomet, to be the goat god, to be the devil, a representation of. It starts becoming a little more clear. So another symbolism I cover quite a bit is the scrying mirror, or the modern day scrying mirror, the black mirror, the portal to the other side, and this is something we see really all around us. It's the same premise as the reflecting pool, as above so below. This is why so often you'll find these reflecting pools in front of occult architecture, or the pyramid in front of the reflecting pool, which creates the diamond. Once again, the as above so below paradigm. So in some sense, we're actually carrying scrying mirrors with us if you think about your iPhones, the black mirror. And interestingly enough, a lot of our television sets nowadays are huge, in my opinion, black mirrors, or scrying mirrors. So I bring all of that up because that's really the only major kind of symbolism that I saw during the convention, at least on the Republican side, and that was that their stage itself was a massive black mirror. And then there's just some of the obvious stuff there, like Trump, the name itself, Trump, right? Trumpet. So there's a lot of people out there that believe there's a lot of meaning behind his name, specifically in the times we're in right now, or the end times, that this somehow means the trumpets. There are people out there that believe that Trump is someone that God sent to save America. There's plenty of other people that think he's all just a part of the game as well, just a part of the show. Either way, if we consider the huge reveal by Newt Gingrich, something that some of us already knew but the masses didn't, that all of this is controlled by secret societies, and then we add to that the Republican stars are now pentagrams, then the way I see things, it begins to make even more sense that the stage of the Republican National Convention was indeed an enormous scrying mirror, or black mirror, a representation of that as above so below paradigm. And as I said, both these parties, they're peas in a pod, right? So we're going to find occult symbolism in both parties. First thing I noticed about the Democratic National Convention, this 2016, was where the podium was on the stage. And if you look from the top down, what I see there is a magic circle. Now again, when we're looking into the language of symbols, we go back to the earliest origins, the original meanings of these things, because these symbols have been around for a long, long time. It's a language that's been with us since the beginning. So considering that, where have I seen this symbol before? When I see this, where have I seen this particular symbol? And why do they have the speakers standing in the very center circle? There are a lot of different variances of the magic circle. The magic circle can be like a sphere. It could even be a field of space marked out by practitioners of many different branches of ritual magic. That's why you see so many different examples of what it can be. Generally, they believe that this magic circle will contain energy. It's a form of a sacred space. They also believe that it'll provide them a form of magical protection. So several weeks ago I did a video called "The Baphomet is Everywhere Now." And in that video I made the case that the Baphomet, the Freemason goat god, a representation of the devil itself, we're seeing that symbolism all over the place now. It's really blowing up. And I bring this up because once again the Baphomet made an appearance, and this time at the Democratic National Convention. So we already know that the Baphomet is represented by the Republicans, right? But the Baphomet, does it ever show up around the Democrats? In fact, it does. It actually showed up at the Democratic National Convention. But before we get back to the convention, let's take a look at this right here. This is Michelle Obama, and this is from the recent President's Correspondence Dinner. If you take a good look at the front of her dress there, what do you see? You may be new to this kind of stuff, and if you are, then right now you're probably screaming retard at the top of your lungs. I understand this. We really are living in a time where you're going to need the eyes to see these things and the ears to hear. And this symbolism is all around us. And it is telling us way more truth about what's going on than the words coming out of these people's mouths. So this here's an image from the 2016 DNC. And you can see there at the bottom left-hand corner, you've got the upside-down star, right? So it's not just the Republicans. We're finding it here with the Democrats as well. And of course, there's also a black upside-down star on the bottom right-hand corner here. So even with that, with the black and the white, once again, the duality, as above, so below paradigm. And this is a screen grab, but it's just another example. And you can see these things, if you're watching this live, you can see this stuff all over the place. But look there in the bottom right-hand corner, and you have a couple of them, a couple of little white Baphomets, upside-down stars. Now here's a wider shot of the stage for the DNC 2016. And even with this, you see the most common so-called Illuminati symbolism or occult imagery we associate with this beast system. But on the far ends, the far right and the far left, you see the pyramids. And then moving in a little bit closer here, you can see the actual checkerboard. They're blue tiles, but the checkerboard's there as well. I'll get a closer picture here. And here's a really good shot of the actual checkerboard. Once again, the duality. And at the bottom row there, what do we have? A bunch of little white Baphomets. The good old red, white, and blue. And of course now we have Michelle Obama walking out on stage at the DNC 2016. In the background we have the checkerboards, we have some rather large Baphomet stars there, and once again on the very bottom row we have all the little white Baphomets. I also noticed something during this that I thought was hilarious, and I really wish I could show it, but they're so hardcore about copyright and all that. I can't play this out, but you can find this online. But this is keeping with the theme that the whole world's a stage, and this stuff's make-believe. It's all just a big reality show. There was a portion of this just before Hillary Clinton came out on stage, where they put her up on this like jumbotron, and this is the scene right here. But just before they showed her face, they did this whole animation where they were showing all of our most famous presidents, all men of course, you know, Lincoln, Washington, slowly doing this montage of all the old presidents. And then all of a sudden you hear this sound like the shattering glass, and you see the whole animation just shatter into pieces. All these old dead male presidents, of course, just shattered, right? And as the shattered glass falls away, Hillary Clinton's there, smiling. And I really couldn't help but laugh, because as I watched it, it reminded me of the World Wrestling Federation. We know that stuff's staged, right? Sure, it's entertainment. You know, it's total entertainment. There's nothing real about that. We know this stuff is all staged. So as I saw Hillary Clinton up on the jumbotron, and them doing this cheesy animation and shattering, you know, and then there she is, our hero, right? The hero shot, Hillary Clinton. I couldn't help but think back to stuff like this. Now going back to the theme of the end of the Fourth Age, the beginning of the Fifth, old constructs falling away and everything being revealed. You must have heard this story by now about Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She had been the chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee for a pretty long time, several years. Recently a bunch of emails were leaked, and they completely and totally busted her. And again revealed so much truth that it seems the masses still can't handle it or get a grasp of it, as so many people are still falling for this whole thing that, oh, Hillary. Recently there was a slew of leaked emails, and they busted her really, really hardcore. In these emails it was obvious that she was pushing for a Hillary nomination. And her being the chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee, she certainly had a lot of reach and influence. So since then, she's had to step down. She's gotten a lot of trouble for this, all right? And I'm glad it happened. I love when this kind of truth comes out on these people. But again, it just goes to show you, man, that this world is a stage. This whole election process is a joke. And I'm so happy that it's being exposed. And then you add to that this kind of last-minute scandal that happened with Bernie Sanders. And then if that wasn't enough evidence that this whole thing is BS, you probably saw this news story where Bernie Sanders' wife came out. There was a hot mic. She had mentioned that the public weren't aware of him being placed on the nomination, and that that was what the concern was. They were going to be putting Bernie's name on the nomination still, but at this very moment right here, he was actually pushing all of his people to vote for Hillary. He knew he was going to be on the nomination, and if he was such a revolutionary and such a hard-fighting guy and really couldn't stand Hillary and all this other stuff, you know, if he really stood for all the things he said he believed in, then this was his moment. This was his chance. He could have shared an atomic bomb of truth right here on his people, on how broken the system really is. But the truth is that Bernie Sanders is not at all what he ever claimed to be. And that's sad, because this guy had a heavily devoted following. I mean, people who were following Bernie really loved this guy. This whole thing with Bernie to me was a sham. It's obvious now, right? It's obvious, guys. He was complicit the whole time, in my opinion. And that should be wrecking you if you were a fan of Bernie Sanders or believed in him. This really is a teachable moment in our history. Both parties have been exposed completely. But will the masses ever really wake up to all of this deception? I'd read an article where hundreds of people apparently had walked out of the DNC 2016 because they were just fed up with this stuff, because they see it for what it is, and I hope that's true. I really hope this election starts waking up the masses on a global scale, because I just showed you a few examples from both sides where this stuff has all been exposed now. It's completely exposed. It's a sham, right? But when will the masses wake up? And when they do, will it be too late? If they do. Anyway, guys, that's it. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on the Republican and the Democratic National Conventions and the election in general and what's taking place. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. Stay aware out there. Take care, and I'll talk to you real soon.